Davide Rossi, and we are here for the third episode of the Goon live show. This is our Tokyo office from where I help who want to study and live in Japan. We're going to talk today a little about finding part-time and full-time employment in Japan, and also about accommodation in Japan. In order to do that, I invited two great guests today. One is Chris, one of the Goon students. He just came to Japan a few months ago. He found a part-time opportunity at the Goon orientation, where we introduce part-time jobs together with other information, and he was able to convert this part-time opportunity in a full-time position. So he will tell us a little bit more about that. And also we have Adachi-san here. Adachi-san is from a company called OAK House. In case you haven't heard about OAK House yet, is the leading agency, one of the leading agency in Japan for share house, apartments, and dormitories. They have 5,400 rooms available for foreigners in Japan. So we will be able to ask Adachi-san and Chris some questions. Actually, I'm here and I'm connected with you guys on Facebook Live and YouTube. So if you would like to ask any question regarding finding employment in Japan and in Japan, you can start asking now those questions, and I will read through the show. Thanks to David, which is behind the scene, is behind the camera. He will forward me your question. So it's first come, first served. So you can start asking questions already. I can see there are already a few of you online right now. I want to wait just a little bit for some late comments. And while I do that, I remind you that we are doing a lot of lives from Japan. We are trying to show how's the life of a language student. We try to show what activity language students do. We also show how the schools look like. We show their accommodations. So if you want to be notified about our next live streaming, to subscribe our YouTube channel and also like our Facebook page. And don't forget to turn the notification on. Again, I think we can start already with some questions, and I would like to start from Chris. So I'll ask Adachi-san to please have a seat in our red sofa. Yes. So she will actually disappear for a second from the screen. But if you guys have questions for Adachi-san, accommodation in Japan, you can already start asking. I see already questions are coming in. However, I want to first have the chance to. I want to give the chance to Chris to introduce himself, and I want to ask Chris if you can tell us a little bit more about you and what was the process that brought you to Japan, and also how living in Japan has changed your life.
Yeah. So I came to Japan in July of this past year, and I originally was working in San Francisco as a data analyst, and I felt like it wasn't really challenging myself to do anything new or difficult. I felt like I was kind of stuck in a rut, and I wanted to come to Japan to challenge myself, to learn a language and a new culture. And I'm actually half Japanese, so I had a strong motivation to come here ever since I was a little kid. So coming here has been a really good experience for me to meet new people, create a new web network, and challenge myself with a new language.
Okay, so how was the actual process? So we know like why you wanted to go to Japan, but how was the process of applying for a school, looking for a school? What did you do?
Absolutely, it's quite difficult in the beginning, but then I was thankful to find Goon Nihon, because you guys were able to give such a comprehensive overview of the schools, the benefits and the challenges with those schools. Also, when I reached out to Goon Nihon, there was a very helpful staff that was able to guide me through that process and getting a student visa, going to my embassy, things like that. That sort of guidance.
What was the staff name?
I think her name was Stephanie.
Stephanie! Yes, he's thanking you live. Okay, Stephanie is just behind us working on some other students. Okay? Okay?
Yeah. So it was a good experience, definitely, and I was thankful to have an organization to guide me through it.
Okay, so I think the questions that are coming here, and I understand that they really want to know. First of all, how did you find a job? What did you do to find a job? And how was the interview? What do you think they really were looking into a foreigner for a language school in Japan, right? So can you share this experience to our viewers?
So as far as looking for a job, there was a lot of online forums that were very helpful, but it wasn't very personal. There wasn't a chance to really make that human-to-human connection. So I was lucky that I found an event that was provided to us through like a Facebook event. I went and I met a person there named Reina, who works at Spark Dojo. which is the current school I teach at for English. And when I met her, she invited me to contact her directly, gave her my resume, and then we kind of just went from there. In the actual interview process, it was pretty standard in most interviews I've had, as long as you present yourself, show the person that you're interviewing that you have skills, that you're willing to work hard, I think that's really what's more valuable.
Okay, so just to recap a little bit, so we have a quarterly orientation at Nihon for our new students, and during the orientation we give tips about life in Japan, how to get started, and one part is introducing few companies that are hiring, and that's where you met Rina and where you heard about Spark Dojo, right?
Yep, that's right.
And the position, and then you find a part-time job at the beginning.
Yeah, so I started out there doing part-time work
Yeah.
and also going to school at the same time. So I would work at night and I would go to school in the mornings.
Okay.
And once I finished school this past December, I was then invited as a full-time member, and they helped me with that process.
Great.
Yeah.
So from January, from December, January, you're full-time.
Yep, I'm working full-time.
Okay, and how is life in Japan?
It's incredibly fun. It's definitely it was one of the biggest decisions in my life to move here, but it's one of those decisions I'm very grateful for. I met so many great people, had so many new and unique experiences, and I'm very thankful for this opportunity.
Okay. Okay, there are some questions here about accommodation as well. So, like working in Japan compared to working in your country, right? I mean, you were a data analyst, now you're English teacher, so I think it's very different, first of all. But also, like, how is the culture of working in Japan? Do you feel it's very difficult to understand what Japanese people want? Do you think any problem on that, or you actually feel very comfortable in this role?
No, I think I feel pretty comfortable. People that I've been lucky to work with have been very welcoming and kind to me, and have really kind of introduced me not just to my job, but also to the work culture in Japan. So having that sort of good sort of first connections with these people has been very helpful. So I feel pretty comfortable for the most part.
Okay. Do you think it opens up new opportunities for people that come from a Western country, let's say, but a country and they have some skills, but not necessarily want to use those skills to find job in Japan? Do you think it actually opens you up with new opportunities? Are you feeling that?
Yeah, I think that some of my skills that I learned in the United States were applicable here, definitely. And good work ethic, having being smart with computers, that kind of stuff, like those basic skills, were definitely in Japan. And then, like I said, having a good team and a good company to work with kind of helps guide you through that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that was really great and valuable.
Cool.
Thank you very much for being here. So I will ask you to also have a seat to our nice red sofa,
Thank you.
I will continue here. So the reason why we really want to share real life situation with you guys is for you to have an understanding of how is life of a student, what type of opportunities you can find if you come to Japan. In case you've joined this live show now, so we are here live from the Goon Nihon Tokyo office that you can see behind me, and from here we help students to come and live in Japan, come to study in Japan. I'm Davide, I'm the CEO of Goon Nihon, and the most important thing is that 10 years ago I was actually like you guys. I was thinking to go to Japan to live and study. I was in Europe at the time, and I was looking for which schools could be good for me, maybe a vocational school, a language school first, which type of accommodation, share house, dormitory, homestay, where the school, where the accommodation. And also I was very worried about going to Japan without any friends, going by myself. So I was kind of losing my friends in Europe and going to a place where I should start everything from zero. I was actually lucky enough to have a job at the time. And I was worried about if I lose the job I have, maybe I was not super happy about the job, but it's something I could have lost. And if I go to Japan, what if I don't find anything as good as the job I was doing in Europe? So I was in this situation 10 years ago, and I thought a few times to actually give up during the process. Luckily, I didn't do. And when I arrived in Japan, I found myself in a country which gave me so much opportunities. And it was actually so easy to live in Japan since the time I arrived. Before I was worried about all these things, the paperwork, and I don't have friends, and the language, and everything. But when I arrived, I realized that life here is actually easier than someone can imagine. So I came here 9 years ago, and after 1 year, about 8 years ago, I decided to start a service called Gogo Nihon to have more people to do the same idea. So come to Japan to live and study. And thanks to the opportunities that Japan actually gave me, like gave also to Chris and many of other students that we have, I could be lucky enough to grow the service to be able to help not just my country and maybe English-speaking countries, but we can also help people from 50 different countries and nationalities to come live and study in Japan. Again, if you like what we are doing here, if you like this live show, and if you would like to live and study in Japan, please give us a thumb up, like this show on YouTube, on Facebook. We will really appreciate that. And if you know anyone that is thinking to come to study in Japan, you can share this live show with them as well. What I had to go through when I was thinking to apply for a school, it was also looking for accommodation. And at that time, again, I was doing everything by myself. 9 years ago, 10 years ago, when I applied for a language school, there was no service like Gogo Nihon, so I had to do everything by myself. And the result was not being like great. Actually, I was not happy at all about my accommodation. It was super expensive, really dirty. I had to move twice in the first 6 months. Luckily enough, now we can partner with great real estate agencies. One of them is Oak House, which is provides accommodation for students in Tokyo, Yokohama, and also Kyoto. And then I would like to call Oak House, give us some more information about how is the life for a foreign student in a Oak House apartment, share house, or dormitory.
Yeah, and we have many variety of the rooms in Oak House, like share house and also apartment.
Okay.
You can choose which is you prefer, share house or apartment. If you prefer live with someone else, you can choose share house. But you also, if you prefer living by yourself, of course you can choose apartment.
Okay, so is the only difference between a share house and an apartment in like the desire of living? Of course, apartment is private and share house is shared, but what advantages, for example, in choosing a share house compared to an apartment?
Actually, we provide all rooms with furniture, so there is no difference. But if you choose share house, you can live with Japanese people and also people from many other countries. So you can also learn Japanese.
Yeah, I think that's actually a huge plus. I think Chris also lived in a work house, and you had the chance to talk with Japanese people daily, right?
Yeah, I would see them in common areas.
Okay, yes, that's one of the reasons why, as Gogo Nihon, we also suggest to go share house first, because if the purpose is to go to Japan, Japanese first, I think you want to maximize the opportunities to do so. And living in a share house like Oak House, where you have a lot of Japanese people living together with the foreigners, right? It's always a good balance.
Yes.
It's never like I'm the only foreigners or is everyone foreigners. It's always,
Yeah, we have 60% Japanese and 40% foreigner.
which I think is great. It's a great balance. And the people that are living in a share house in Oak House, that's also important. They pick the share house in Oak House because they also want to live with foreigners. So there are people very open-minded that are really happy to make new friends, and you can immediately start with, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 friends, depending on how big is the share house that you choose.
We have from 4 people to the biggest one is 260 rooms. So in big house, we have very huge common space like lounge or gym studio or theater room, like that.
Wow.
So you can play with your roommates every day if you want.
This is not all the houses you have, right? Some of them.
Some of them.
So if you wanna, for example, I think that's great, because when I came to Japan again, there was no service like Gogo Nihon, and had no idea about a place where half of the people living there are young Japanese people that want to meet foreigners, and you can also have a shared gym, pool table, and all things like that. Unfortunately, I didn't know. So if you guys want to know about this, want to know which house has these features, just when you inquire us, let us know, and we will definitely guide you through the right accommodation. I have one question, but I need help, I think, from David to interpret it. Are there COED, shared housing?
Co-ed,
What is co-ed?
female.
Okay, sorry. My country doesn't have this term. Those share house are all mixed, or you also have male only, female only? How does it work?
We have female only houses, but we don't have male only.
Okay, so
Mix or female only.
okay, so mix is the majority, I would say, right? But still, you have several female only
Female-only
houses,
houses.
not male only. Okay, I mean, why? But yeah. I have one question for Chris. You can stay there, Chris, and I'll just ask you. I missed it. Okay, no, actually, that was. But I can ask you that question. How many do you any other student that has found a job, work while was attending a language school, and what they're doing?
Yeah, so my girlfriend actually has found a job. She works as a kind of a singing English teacher for kids.
Okay.
So she sings to them over the phone, speaking English.
Wow. Okay.
And it's also part-time work. She makes her own schedule. And she doesn't have class, usually at night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So, okay, that's the first time I hear about that, to be honest, like singing English teacher at the phone. Wow. But that's, again, it's Japan, right? You have so many opportunities as a foreigner, especially if you study the language. You can really do probably way much more than you could do in your country. That's always when you get out your comfort zone. First of all, your comfort zone, learn something new, which is Japanese language, and then the opportunities really come up to you. And what I said also in one of the other live is that now the Olympics are coming. Now Japan has won the bid for the 2020 Olympics, so more and more of our students are actually find employment in Japan. It's really amazing to see the difference between when I came here 9 years ago. Rare to find a job that fast. Now there is a vast majority of the students that find a job at the very beginning. Of course, not 100%, so you still have to look for a job, you still have to be very proactive, but there are no excuses. If you come to Japan, it's like your life reset in a sense, but you have all the opportunities you want to really start a new professional life as well. And language, I think you have many opportunities to find employment. One other question that they were asking us before I get back to Workhouse is how do you as a company earn money being a free service? Okay, that's a very good question. Actually, people when first find about Google Nihon, they always ask it. So first of all, our service, yes, is completely free. There is no catch. So we don't charge for any fee for going to Workhouse, or we don't charge students for any fee to go into a language school. The student will pay directly to Workhouse, true, right?
Yes.
They pay directly to Workhouse. We are real Workhouse that can say that. And then the students pay directly and to the school, right, Chris?
Yep,
You pay to the school.
to the school.
So we don't charge anything. The reason we can do that, we get funded, of course, from the real estate and the schools in Japan that they want more foreigners. And thanks to Gogo Nihon, we can really, even these live videos that we do, help really people to make people more aware about living and studying in Japan. And thanks for our work, we also go abroad and we attend like anime fair. We have a website. We can bring more Western to Japan, and we can also help Western with the application, the information about which school is good for them and so on. So it's a win-win-win situation. So the student wins because for free has a great help from the very beginning when he's thinking to go to Japan but doesn't know how, to the time they are in Japan to be invited to some event when they can make friends. The real estate companies or the schools, they win as well because they can get more Western people to come thanks to this information we give. And of course, in our case, without charging students, we can get the funds we need to continue and run the office. So this, I hope, answered your question. I want to see if there are questions for Orcas.
Yeah, one thing I would like to say.
Yes, please.
That's true. Actually, your reservation system in Oka House, there are some procedure to reserve, but if you through the Gogo Nihon, it's much more easier. It's like 2 steps, like to complete your reservation.
Okay, thank you, because yes, I think we always try to make it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. is your house as limitation in terms of countries or
No,
restrictions,
completely
age
no.
restrictions?
Actually, you can live in a house as long as you are over 18 years old.
Okay, so as also for our long-term language students, you must be 18 years old. Also for our house, you must be 18 years old or over to live, but there are not restrictions in terms of countries or other age restrictions, of course. In case you are between 16 to 18, we have a youth course, actually 14 to 17, a youth course where we use homestay. So in case you're younger, you still want to spend the summer in Japan, you can enjoy the course. I think, yeah, it was great. Thank you very much for being here and for sharing information about our house. Again, our house provides with more than 5,400 rooms, accommodation to foreigners and Japanese people, of course, in the Kanto area, which includes Tokyo, Yokohama, and also Kyoto. There's one big house in Kyoto,
Yes.
right? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, again, in case you've just joined the live streaming now, this is Davide. I'm the CEO of Nihon, and I'm here from our Tokyo office where we help everyday people who want to live and study in Japan. Today's topic is find part-time and full-time employment in Japan, and also accommodation in Japan. We had two great guests. We had Chris, one of the Nihon students who find employment at the Nihon orientation, and then it was a part-time job at the beginning, and then from the same English teaching company, and he shared before his experience about working in Japan. And also we had House, one of the leading agency for accommodation for foreigners and Japanese, with more than 5,400 rooms available in Kanto area, Tokyo, Yokohama, and I have a lot of questions to go, so I will read the questions in order. Sorry for kept you waiting. Brian is asking, if I only had 1 million yen, which is $10,000, and wanted to stay for 6 months, would that be possible, or do you guys recommend more? I think it's perfectly fine. For 6 months, this amount is possible. So we can, of course, suggest you which school, which accommodation, or house shared would be probably recommended, because you can save some money compared to an apartment. So Brian, yes, that's absolutely possible. Also, if I sign up and I can't afford the 6 months, can I just do the 3 months? That's a little bit more difficult. Usually schools have cancellation policies. So depending on the school, you have a different policy. Some schools will refund you in case you leave early. They keep some money. So I suggest you again to contact us and let us know. However, I think with the right advice on accommodation and location and school, the $10,000 you have for 6 months are more than enough. And still you may be able to find a part-time job that can help you to stay in those 6 months. So I don't see this as a problem. How many of your students stay in Japan and find work after attending a language school? Okay, so this was the question that Chris partially replied already. As I said, since Japan won the Olympic bid, I've seen so much more interest in Japanese companies to hire more foreigners, because they want to be ready by that time, which is in 3 years from now. And this is a huge opportunity for everyone that is coming now to find at least a part-time employment. So many of our students are actually now working part-time. The usual jobs for our students are, of course, in the food industry. So many restaurants, bars, izakaya, which is a Japanese-style evening restaurant where you can, drink and food, Japanese-style food, are hiring foreigners. Why they want so many foreigners? First of all, because there are more tourists. 2016 was a record year for Japan tourism, with more than 21 million visitors, only tourists, coming to Japan, which means more tourists, more competition to get those tourists to eat at those restaurants. And obviously, don't study Japanese as they're tourists, so they need a place where they can communicate in English. That's why more and more restaurants are hiring foreign staff. So that's a kind of easy job to find. Of course, it's not really for, again, it's not 100% guaranteed, but it's very common for a student to find employment in a restaurant or a bar, like I said. The second option usually our students have is becoming is to become a language teacher. Most of them work as an English teacher. Of course, if you're a native English speaker, that makes everything easier. Also, Italian, Spanish, French are languages that are on demand, so you have your opportunities to find a job in those languages. Those jobs are paid more than the restaurant job I said before, so the competition is also higher. But again, I see more and more of our students to find an English teaching job. And like Chris said, it was straightforward. He came to our orientation, he contacted the school that was hiring, he got a part-time job, and then last December, which is 2 months ago, got a full-time job. Now he's got a visa, working visa, and also his girlfriend is an English singing teacher, or singing English teacher, teaching to kids at the phone, which is the first time I heard it, but I think it's amazing. I love Japan, and just those things happen only here. But like that, many other students, they work right now. Aaron Isaac is asking, I want to study the language in Japan next year. I had 2 million for 1 year. My question is, can I work in Japan at the same time I study, save the money, and enter to a university? I'm from Mexico, 17 years old. Okay, so yes, you can do everything you said. So you have enough saving, you can apply for 1 year. You can student, you can work up to 28 hours per week, which is a good part-time, because 4 hours you're going to be at school, and then it's pretty much 4 hours per day you can work part-time. So it's really make your day busy. Usually those money are good to pay your expenses, maybe to pay the extension of the school. Maybe are not good enough to prepare the money you need to go to university. Obviously, university costs more than a language school, unless you find a really good paid job. But that's it's kind of it gets a little bit difficult. So the restaurant job I was saying is about 1,000 yen per hour, which is $10, $9, $10. The teaching job can pay double or triple depending on qualified the company you work for is. But again, like then you wanna save the money in 1 year in Japan to go to university in Japan. That could be maybe a little bit difficult. But definitely you can work part time. Definitely you can study 1 year with 2 million yen, which is $20,000 that you have saved. Absolutely no problem. Benzo Benz. In my early 30s, 30 years old, is there restriction to studying in Japan if you are of this age? No, absolutely not. Actually, age restrictions are maybe on the low side, on the downside, in the sense that again, if you are not 18, if you haven't finished high school, you know, it could be a problem to go to a language school. We have a lot of students that are over 30, which is absolutely no problem. The average of our student is like 24, 25, I would say, but we still have a lot of students that are 30, 40. We had, again, an Irish student I remember was over 60 and applied 3 years ago. He just quit his job and just wanted to have a different type of retirement when he was over 60. We have a lot of people in their 30s that they just mid-career, maybe they want to change something in their life, or they want to get a better job, they want to learn a new language, they just love Japan, and they want to do now that they can something that they wanted to do 10 years before. I came myself when I was 26, to be honest. So even though many of our students, they come when they're 18, 19, I wish I would have done it. You can still come whenever you feel it. That's my suggestion. Nakagawara Angelica, I'm here in Japan. I would like to get a job. Any suggestions? Thanks. Okay, so first of all, Gogo Nihon is hiring, in case you didn't know. So if you go to our site, in the career page, we have few positions open, and you can see if you can, if you're a good match for. That's, of course, is very limited, as we are not as big as everyone want to apply for a job in Japan. We need to know more about you. What's your visa status? There are few job boards which you still want to check. You can just search for jobs in Japan, career in Japan, Dai job, for example, depending on your visa status, etc. So it's very hard for me to get into details. But again, Gogo Nihon is hiring, guys. You know, check our site. If you are a good match for those, please send us your resume. We will be ready. We would love to see your application. Maria Smith, is this limited to certain countries, or can anyone apply? That was partly also replied, we actually can help really most of the countries in the world. We have every year students that are coming from more than 50 countries, and we support daily, like the people behind me, our great team behind me is actually answering students daily from more than 50 different countries. Sometimes we cannot support a specific country, but that's just because Japan immigration is extremely strict for that country, and it will be almost impossible for us to make a visa application process. However, again, most of the countries in the world are okay. Just send us an email or let us know where are you from, and I can be more direct to you. But yeah, we are a very international service. We speak 9 languages: the English, Spanish, Swedish, Italian, German, French, Indonesian, of course Japanese and Korean here, and we employ people from more than 12 different countries just in the office behind me. So absolutely, we can help most of the countries in the world. Before Sophie get out on Facebook, if you take the language course at a university or college, would that be enough to apply for a work visa? Yeah, you mean take means finishing also the course, right? So it depends on your first of all background. If you have only high school and you study Japanese at university and you don't go to university, it may still be very, very difficult for you to get a work visa. I know cases of students that just with high school plus language study could find a full-time employment, but those are very rare. Are people that have already a clear work experience before coming to Japan, like they've been chef for 10 years, they've been IT system engineer for 5 years, and then even if they don't have a degree, they can use that experience plus the language they study to get a work visa. So I need you to be a little bit more specific. If you can do during this live video, I will get back to you. The fact you study a university language course doesn't make any difference from a language school value. So that's also part of the reply. Danny on Facebook is asking, is it really as easy as they say to get a part-time job while studying? Is also asking the same in Spanish. So I'll get back to you in English because I don't speak Spanish. However, we have Spanish staff in the office, so if you want to ask some questions, free to contact us, and then there's absolutely no problem. When I say it's easy, first of all, it really depends on your expectation. Like, I would say finding a restaurant job for a person that comes to Japan to study the language, so he's actually going to school and improving his Japanese day after day, it's relatively easy, yes. An office job where they pay you, I don't know, $40 per hour, well-paid job, and you don't even go to school, so your Japanese is 0, then of course it's difficult in Japan like any other country if you don't speak the native language of the country. So it's really relative as well. However, based on our students, more and more students, they find part-time jobs. We had Taylor last week, Felix 2 weeks ago. We to you students every week to show you their experience and maybe inspire you a little bit. That is not as hard as it can feel, maybe from your country. Also, at Google Nihon, we try to do the best job as we can to guide you guys to the place to look for a part-time job. We send you the information about part-time jobs, or where you can find an English teaching job, for example. We also, at our orientation, show part-time job opportunities every time. We may, in April orientation, which is the next one, every 3 months, we're going to show other opportunities for our students. So definitely, if you come to our orientation, if you use Google Nihon and come to our orientation, you will have those type of opportunities. Plus, Japan is a big country, is a big economy. Osaka, Kyoto, Fukuoka as well. They're very looking forward to hiring more foreigners, as I said, because also the Tokyo Olympics coming soon. So you will have your opportunities. Gloria Umro, you work only in English, what about other languages? No, actually, Gogo Nihon, as I mentioned before, supports 9 languages right now, more than 50 different countries. So Italian, Spanish, Swedish, German, French, Indonesian as well, and also Korean and Japanese are supported by us. We have a few more questions. Brooke Jackson, I've applied for a couple schools in Tokyo. When is the deadline for April? How much money is the course? And how much do you recommend bringing for other expenses? What are the other expenses? And also, if you decide to stay longer, are you able to extend your time, for example, 6 months, 1 year? Okay, let me break down these questions so I answer each one. I'll start from the last one. If you apply for 6 months, yes, you can extend later. Actually, I think makes a lot of sense. It's common sense to apply first for 6 months, see how things are going, make sure that you can also afford to extend, make sure that you also are having a great time in Japan when you decide later to extend. That's one of the common suggestions we also give to our students. The deadline for April term is already gone. So I think if you haven't really applied yet, you may have some problems to get a visa in April. However, we can still support you to apply for July. And depending on the particular case, a particular background, you can still come in Japan a little bit earlier and then switch the visa afterwards. 6 months course, I suggest you to check our site that has prices in yen, and they're always updated with the latest price of the school. So I don't do mistakes here, like telling you some numbers and then maybe are not the same of our site. Our sites, again, we don't add any extra cost. So what you see in our site, gogonyon.com, is the same as you will pay if you apply directly to the school. So please check that for the school costs. In general, if you really want to save money, for example, you want to go to a school that has a dormitory in a location that is not the most expensive, you can do it, and you can really save at that point compared to, for example, going in a central location school with apartment, etc., and then save money for the daily life. I mean, life in Japan, actually, people still feel Japan is a very expensive country. However, Japan has had not an increase in cost of life in the last 20 years. There is no inflation, there is not rise in prices. So the price of a bento, which is the box, the lunch box, in Japan, or the price for a beer or for a Coca-Cola, is the same that you would have paid 20 years ago, which means Japan was very expensive. And sometimes this is still perceived from people that don't really know much. They think that Japan is a very expensive place to live. However, what you find here, and you please ask any person that is living here, any foreigners, any student is living here, is extremely cheap to live in Japan. Of course, that's relative from also where you come from. But for example, compared to Europe or also America, Australia, Canada, Japan is way much cheaper. Like again, a lunch, bento box, the very famous popular bento where you can put fish or meat, pasta. It goes from 400 yen to 600, 700 yen, which we're talking about $3.5 or 3.3 euros to maybe 5, 6 euros, $5, $6. Cheap dinners also could be cheap. Of course, the extra in Japan could be very, very expensive. If you go to the most luxury restaurant, you can pay a lot, but that you would do probably also in your country. So it doesn't really take that much for 6 months. So we suggest people to save at least the equivalent of $9,000, I think now, which is 1 million euros, $9,000, 1 million yen. That's what we suggest people to save for 6 months. But especially if you find a part-time job, you won't need that much if you have a dormitory and a school not in an expensive location. I hope that also replied to your questions. Daniel Garcia, I love to go to the Otaku Japan course because I love anime and manga, but you have to be 18. So my question is, will 16? I think, first of all, it's great you're so young, 16, you have all those years in front of you. The U Japan is a great course. We did last year, the satisfaction of our students was extremely high. You have homestay experience connected with the course. So that's also something you can still, you can still go to Akihabara, you can still go to all the places you want to go in Tokyo. Unfortunately, we are not planning to do a Otaku Youth Japan course. And if you do, probably will be in 2-3 years when you're 18 anyway. So you probably will be able to join the Otaku Japan course in just 2 years, which will really be is not that long time. So I suggest you to look into the U Japan, or the Otaku Japan will be there. We won't run away. It will be available in a couple of years. I got a few more questions. So let me also remind you guys, thank you very much for all these questions. You can ask me questions. You can also direct question to Chris and Akaus in order to get there about working in Japan or accommodation in Japan. And this is Davide, the CEO of Nihon. This is our Tokyo office where we help people every day, people who want to live and study in Japan. And I'm very excited to be here, and I hope you also like it. So thumb up for us in case you are enjoying this live show, and if you want to live and study in Japan, let us know with a nice comment and liking us on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you very much. Andres is asking, I study international trade and I plan to go to Japan to study for at least a year. And I want to take a postgraduate course for my career. Is there any chance of doing so? Sorry, my English is very bad. First of all, your English is great. It's probably better than mine, so absolutely no worries. Yeah, your case is very specific. It's very professional oriented reason to come to Japan. First of all, I suggest you, like I do with everyone, to learn the language, especially if you want to have a career in Japan. Whatever you're doing, plus you learn the language, whatever is your skill, and you know Japanese, you have way much more chances to find employment in Japan. For a postgraduate course, yes, probably the postgraduate course will be in Japanese, Daigakuin course, for example. So you have all the opportunities of this world, like they really teach you everything here, like probably in your country. So if you learn the language, then you can access to these postgraduate courses. However, the language required to access to those courses usually is the equivalent of the JLPT, Japanese Language Proficiency Test, N2 or more, which if you start from really zero, 1 year could be not enough. So I like you say at least 1 year. I like Andres, you say at least 1 year, because that means maybe you're thinking also 1 year and a half, and then absolutely yes. So what you're asking is possible. Again, we have from Facebook, Gerald Ross. You asked me to be more specific. Yes. 22 years old, truck driver from Alberta, Canada. I have been a truck driver since I was 18. Okay, I'm reading this live because you're sharing it, so it's okay, I guess. I was A, B average in a school with some college. I've been doing some research for 2 years now and found out that it's rare, but foreign professional drivers do exist in Japan. What I was asking was, when I do take and finish the fluent language course, will it help me, or did I waste 2 years? Plus I have, okay, and then you have enough savings. So first of all, absolutely, like your age, you're from Canada, that's absolutely fine. Actually, it's really, I would say the typical student is around that age. Again, we have also students that are over 30, over 40. We have 18 years old students, 19, but the average is like 22 to 24, 5, so that's perfectly fine. I mean, as soon as you can go, if you have this desire, just do it. Because, like, I understand how you feel, because I was feeling like this 10 years ago. The grades in high school, to be honest, together with the grade at university, to be honest, in Japan, doesn't really mean much. And when I say much, I'm trying to be very nice, in a sense, don't really mean anything. So that no one cares if you were B, we're A, you're at Z. I don't know, in Europe we have 110, 190. If you just graduated by a hair, we say, no one is gonna care. Think about when you go to Japan, really you have the chance to reset everything you've done from a school point of view in your country. So no one's gonna care if you were a good student, bad student. You have all the else coming to Japan and start studying Japanese. So you want to be fluent in Japanese. I mean, especially if you want to work in your field, you definitely want to be fluent in Japanese. I don't have students I can recall that became truck drivers in Japan. As you can imagine, it's a very particular, very niche area to work, especially for a person who wants to go abroad. What I would say, first of all, don't limit yourself to just that job. As Chris also mentioned at the beginning of the live show, he was a data analyst and now he's teaching English and he's loving life. And his girlfriend also is doing a job that probably she never thought doing before coming to study in Japan. And myself, I mean, I did almost all of them was on my list of things I could have done. So it's really like a land of opportunities in a sense. The experience of going abroad from the other part of the world, you go from Canada, Alberta, to Japan, whatever the choice you choose, is going to open your mind so much already. you will really find yourself thinking and desiring aspiring now. And also the opportunities you will see every day are probably like a week in Japan will give you more opportunities to do other things than 2 years in your country, whatever the country is. I think Canada is a great place personally, but it's still just the fact you're living abroad opens so many doors to you. So yes, to cut it shorter, I think you could do that. First of all, keep the mind very, very open to any other opportunity. Don't be focused on only this niche, which is being a truck driver in Japan. That would be my advice. So this is an advice more than an answer. Sorry about being so wide in a sense. Sophie Cross is asking, had some knowledge of Japanese, current studying it in high school, or again, learning the basics experience. No. So when you come to Japan, whichever language school you choose, you will have a placement test, which means the school will test your Japanese level before assigning you the right level. Of course, you can start from 0, but you can start from 10, which means you're already fluent. What usually happens though, that sometimes people overestimate or underestimate their actual level. Being in a certain level in a class in Japan means not just you're fluent talking, or maybe you study a lot of kanji, means all of that. So for example, there are people that are really fluent because they came to Japan many times, they watch anime, manga a lot, they really have a good sense of hearing and they can actually talk very much, but they don't even know how to write hiragana and katakana. That means that they may actually be put in a lower class just because their writing skills are not as good as their listening and speaking skills. On the counter side, the opposite is also true. So for example, you are a master of kanji just because you love your very visual memory, which I would envy you, because for me it's always been a struggle, the kanji part. But you know, you're so good in writing by hand, you can read all of them. However, you've never been in Japan, so you don't understand, you don't talk. That's also may lower your level a lot. So just be confident, trust the teachers of the school recommended, because they've been seeing and judging thousands of students before you, and they know better than you actually do which is the right class for you. But usually you have a placement test and you can show what's your level and you will put in the right class. Okay, we have the last few minutes. We have five more minutes here. So guys, if you have questions, because we're going to close in 5 minutes. However, I'm really going to try my best to read those questions really fast, so we try to answer as many as possible. Anthony, thank you for doing the live stream again. Thank you, Anthony, for saying that. I was sad to miss the last one. I really enjoy watching this. Anyway, does the university we applied to depend on the language school? No. So you can apply to any language school. We recommend students a language school based on their needs. Some people want to study as much as possible. Some people want to live in a certain city. Some people want to also do a part-time job. Some people want to have a lot of free time. And then after you finish language school, you can choose any university or vocational school you like. Also in the future, I would like to be like you and work in an international study abroad organization, like in college, to lead you to where you are now. What kinds of things did you do? If you don't mind, please tell me the field you studied. This is maybe personal, but I'm curious. Of course, I don't mind sharing my background. So I studied computer science at university, so completely unrelated. And I was working, I'm Italian. I never actually worked in Italy. I just went to London, where I worked 2 years as a programmer. I think the job and the company was great, but just I didn't enjoy my life being a programmer. So I decided to do something completely different, which was study Japanese in Japan. That's why 9 years ago I came to Japan to study. I think the field is not really related. It's more about the opportunities that I had in Japan. If I had studied in Europe, I think everything I studied wouldn't even matter. I would never be able to start a service like this. The fact I went to Japan gave me the opportunity to do that. So my advice is go abroad, open your horizons, open your mind, and try to look for what is really compelling and good for you. I hope this answers your questions. Enter stream again. Okay, this is the same question. And then Pennyman again, is the process the same when extending the student visa as when applying for the first time with Google Nihon? No. Although we try to simplify as much as possible the application process, there is still some documents to send. That's because those documents are immigration. As also Orcaus said to us before, we also tried really to simplify like the payment process, the application process for one of the rooms at Orcaus is a lot simpler when using Gogo Nihon, just because we try to cut as many steps as possible for our students. However, even simpler. It's basically most of the cases is just being a good student, which means going to school with a good attendance rate and just extending paying the tuition fee for the next 6 months, 3 months, however, depending how much you want to extend. So it's very easy. The first time takes some time. We'll try to make it as easy as possible, but still you need to start extremely easy. Gloria, if I need a doctor or to go to a hospital, okay, this is a very good question. Thank you for asking, Gloria. As a language student with a student visa, we all are able to apply for the National Health Insurance scheme in Japan, which is the same that Japanese people also enroll, which means that you pay very little. So for about, depending on the city you live, it could vary from like just $10 to maybe 20. That's really the range we're talking about. It's extremely cheap, and it cuts down 70% of any medical expense. So you want to visit a doctor, you want to buy some medicine, anything that you need will be cut about 70%. On the top of it, some schools also offer full cover, 100% insurance, and also Gogo Nihon recently has started to offer 100% cover with a really little price from one of our partner private insurance. So you have 70% with a very cheap price provided by Japan, because as a language student you can enroll to the Japanese health insurance system scheme, and also we can support you to get the full cover, 100%. This covers medical expenses, all the common things like visit the doctor's medicine. Of course, it doesn't cover, for example, if you want to get a massage or anything that is not strictly medical. I think also the dentist, if it's for aesthetic, also is not covered, and things like that. So you wanna make sure also you have a clear agreement of what is covered or not. Okay, it's almost 6 o'clock, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this live streaming. As you've seen, we at Gogo Nihon, we are trying to show you as much as we can from Japan. We are showing you activities of our students. We show you also, for example, we went to Sky Tree, the third tallest tower in the world 2 weeks ago. We made a live streaming from there. We also showed you some calligraphy and tea ceremony class on live streaming last week. We visit our schools. We're also going to visit accommodations to show you how actually they look like on a live streaming. And we're going to have this type of live streaming once a week. So if you don't want to miss when we go live, please subscribe on our YouTube channel and also like our Facebook page, making sure that you also turn on notifications so you get the notification when we are live. I hope you enjoyed this live streaming. In case you did, please like us and share this video. Thank you very much. Mata ne!